Hello, my little earthlings. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about the topic of adaptability when you are writing your story. So the importance of adaptability in story writing first really applies depending on if you are jumping in the swimming pool and staying in the shallow end where you know how to swim and you already know the inner workings of it. So say like a short story versus you're jumping into the deep end of the pool where you might know how to tread water, but you're not really sure if you will stay afloat. And that's more of a long story. So either way, adaptability can be useful to you. I definitely think for a long form story, adaptability is going to be your best friend. But adaptability for story writing is also a really good thing because it is the opposite of perfectionism, and it is also extremely useful for your life in several other ways. So if you can adapt this practice into your story writing and you can hold that space to accept that your story will change and grow with time, especially if it's a longer one, then not only will you be able to stay on the ball about making stories, but you'll also see this reflected in your other areas of life, in your acceptance of being able to adapt to other situations as well. So what does it mean to be adaptable in your story? Like, what specifically am I talking about? Are we talking about just adapting certain elements or principles, or changing a certain character, things like that? Kind of yes and no. I would say specifically when I talk about being adaptable in your story, the specific area I'm talking about is the overall meaning of your story. So this I really highly recommend you leave open-ended, unless you're swimming in the shallow end. Like I said, when I say swimming in the shallow end, I mean you're writing a short story, you already have it mapped out beginning to end, you know where you want it to go, and it's going to take maybe less than a year to create. Even then, you might still want to keep the ideas of adaptable story in mind, because people can change dramatically even in a year if they are going down those routes, or even if they don't mean to change. Life happens, things happen to us, we gain new experiences, and those experiences are going to reflect on our work. We can't help project the things we learn and the experiences we gain on our work, and if we accept this and know it ahead of time, then we can actually use it as a benefit to make our stories better. So when I say be adaptable in story writing, what I mean by this is a lot of people, especially if they are getting into writing early on or storytelling, they are a little bit scared that unless they know how it's going to end, or they know the meaning that they're trying to convey with it, that they don't really want to get started until they have that very concretely mapped out. And I'm going to be doing another video topic on this, about how we should really allow creativity and story to inform our lives as opposed to letting our lives inform story, because this really applies here. And what I mean by that is, for example, the story of E.T. Girl, I started it when I was 18 or 19, and at the time when I wrote it, I was the same age as the main character. And my personal experiences about what the story was about and what she had to overcome and how she had to overcome her challenges is very different than now, 10 years later, of in terms of what those things are. I am really glad that I wasn't really stubborn and decided to stick with whatever original message or meaning I had, because to be honest, I didn't really know what the original message or meaning was. And it's something that only now, as I am more mapping out the story and getting it complete in my mind before I'm dropping it, that I'm able to see that my life experiences, as well as my push forward into the unknown, even when I didn't really know the things I was writing about, I knew more than I thought I did. So the reason why we don't really want to go detective mode on adaptability, or, well, yes, with adaptability, but we don't want to go detective mode on what's the meaning, what am I trying to say, is because this is really the subconscious job's work, and that's going to come out naturally in flow as you're writing the story. And a lot of the times, we don't notice till after we read our story all of the deep meaning or the things we were trying to say, until, yeah, the story's pretty much done. Now, you can catch on to this process early, and you can go back and reflect on your story as you go and see what you are trying to say, and that could help you better inform how you want to finish your story. But keep an open mind to if the message changes of what you're trying to say or do. Keep an open mind if the characters that you have written, if they change in a way that perhaps they are now shifting roles to what you originally wrote them for. And really take the time to go down those routes and just explore if your brain says, hey, I think this character needs to adapt and shift and change because it seems better for the story, and maybe I don't know why yet, but I just feel that it does. And I would definitely say go with that feeling. Often people learn when they're learning more about themselves and their feelings and all those other things, they learn that their feelings are always correct and valid, but their interpretation of their feelings, like the beliefs we apply, can be wrong, because the beliefs we apply to what we're feeling can be usually informed by our upbringing. And this is why when writing story, definitely write it from the heart, write it from your feelings. But don't then attach beliefs to those things, because that is you trying to find the message and the meaning before you know if it's been kind of clouded or colored by certain beliefs you hold that you're going to grow out of as you grow and adapt and change when you get older. So really just grab a hold of this idea that you're there for the ride with this story. There's nothing you can do that'll be wrong with it, because stories really are subjective and they are also personal, and it's already brave and very vulnerable of you to be putting it out there in the first place. So I would say the best way to integrate adaptability in story, and we're talking for long form stories, anything that I would say takes longer than 6 months to write, I would apply this method to it. So in order to apply adaptability in story, what that means is really taking time every few months, sitting down with your story outline or your plots that you've written, and just make sure everything still clicks and feels right. Make sure that the characters you've written, kind of do a review over them or do a little character interview with them, and still make sure that they ring true, or if you feel there's things that you need to add or things you've discovered about them, that you put those things in there. So that's your adaptability in short form, I would say. The other thing too is I would definitely say take a moment or a time to reflect on your overarching story and ask yourself, what am I trying to say? But don't dig deep for the meaning, especially if it doesn't come to you. If you don't know right away, or if it's not just something that clicks, then just sort of use it as a reflective point in process. And it's okay if that answer stays blank. Just keep going. But definitely reflect on it every once in a while, because every time you ask your mind that, it's going to take that, put it in the subconscious, and then your subconscious will answer you through story. So it'll take that question you asked and it will start showing you the answers in a way that maybe you didn't expect. So you might be expecting a conscious answer to come through, like you ask it and then you expect to be able to write out the answer. And that might not be the case. You might ask the question and a few days later, a few hours later, suddenly you get an epiphany, an idea for your story. Or maybe you're listening to something and it just strikes you as, this is perfect for my story. And that is your subconscious brain trying to answer that question that you asked. And the more you ask it, the more you repeat that question, the more you're telling your subconscious mind what's important to you, that you would like to work in accordance with. And so always listen to that. Remember, your subconscious speaks to you in feeling and in art and creativity. It's not going to use words particularly. Sometimes it will. You'll hear that little voice in your head that says, oh, this is what it is. But the majority of the time, it's going to come to you in a song that's inspiring, or a movie that you liked a specific aspect, or some research that you did that suddenly rings true for your plotline. And just really go down that and explore those creative avenues and follow that curiosity, because that is where your adaptability is going to lend to you expanding outward. So the ways that adaptability, if you don't apply this to story, can be problematic would be if someone realizes their story is changing, especially if they feel it's changing too quickly before they've had a chance to really figure out what's going on or why, or being able to tackle it, then they could start to shame themselves. Their perfectionism could kick in and say, well, if the story's now changed, then since I don't even know what it's about, then how could I genuinely write from that? And you still can. So don't let the fact that your story is changing on you be a bad thing. Take the fact that your story is changing on you as a good thing, because that's showing a reflection of your own personal growth, even if you don't know what it means as it's happening. You're not here to really be ready or know what things mean all the time. Instead, you're here to just go through the lived experience of it and to learn as you go. And me also, as a fellow webcomic creator and YouTuber who is trying to make these videos with how-tos, a lot of these things are things that I'm still learning and growing on. And E.T. Girl is still a story that I'm adapting and changing as I go. And I can definitely say it's a process, but it's a great one where I want to be able to share it to you guys even before I'm ready or before I know everything about it. So, yeah, I'm in the same boat as the rest of y'all. And I want to just tell people about the things I learn as I go. And then that way, hopefully, it'll give you a little boost or insight into your story. So, yeah, I hope that your story benefits from learning about adaptability and taking on that mindset that you can recalibrate things at any time. And I'd love to hear if you have made a story shift with your story, like how that worked for you, how that kind of played out, how you handled the new shift in your plotline. I definitely always think that dropping comments down below so we can all work together as like a community to give each other advice would be like a really great and beautiful thing I'd love to have here on YouTube. So thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.